Hello, this is Reverend Gary Kennedy with today's Spot of God. I want us to think about how God calls us. And when I say calls us, how God invites us to know Him better, to understand our walk with God. This coming weekend, Saturday and Sunday, I'll be preaching about Jesus calling His disciples and how those disciples heard Jesus call, either directly or sometimes through someone else, invited by a brother or friend, a fellow fisherman, to invite them to follow Jesus. But there's a side note to that story that probably won't be a part of the sermon, but there's another story about how Samuel received his calling. And this is back in the Old Testament. As a boy, Samuel was in the temple. He was being raised by Eli, the priest, and Samuel heard the voice of God. And not knowing what that was, he ran to Eli and said, "Eli, you called me." And Eli said, "No, I didn't." Well, this happened a couple times before Eli figured out what was going on and said to Samuel, when God calls, or when you hear the voice again, say, "Yes, Lord, I listen." And that started Samuel and his relationship with God and his becoming a prophet, where he would hear the voice of God and then share that with other people. There are so many different ways that we hear the voice of God. Not to exclude Samuel's experience of hearing the voice of God, or that expression, that still small voice. Sometimes we hear God in a smaller voice, or sometimes we hear God in the circumstances of the day, or like some of those disciples, through another disciple, through another friend, hearing the voice of God. And sometimes we hear the voice of God in seeing God live out through the lives of other people, like our Sunday school teacher, or a mother or father or grandmother or grandfather, whoever it was that shared with us about who Christ was and is for us. So there are many different ways that we hear and receive God's calling. I want to challenge you, just be open to God. Whether it's that still small voice, or whether it's that voice that Samuel heard quite clearly, or other ways and through other people, or maybe through reading the scriptures. But know this, God calls us. God reaches out to us. And for us, what a joy when we learn to hear with spiritual ears, as scripture says, to tune in and hear God and respond. It's a beautiful thing. So be intuitive and be listening. And may God bless you.